Hello, everyone. My name is Guillermo Hamlin, the Government Affairs Coordinator at MATV, soon to be UMA. I am joined by Councilor Linehan. She is going to be talking with me about a quick update for Malden residents, need to know and appropriate for the government. Please, Amanda, if I were a Malden resident, would I be able to really congregate anywhere right now on these streets? How would I go about getting the supplies I need? And most importantly, what's been going on in the city government? I still care about a series of issues such as trash, such as my voting rights, such as school. I don't know when my kids are going to go back,
Yep.
So if you could start from the schools, that'd be great. What's been happening?
Well, I can.
All the residents can know.
Sure. So, I mean, I can talk a little bit as an elected official, but also as a parent. And I will just preface this by saying I do have a 6-year-old running around, like my peripheral view. She's done 2 laps already while I'm trying to talk with you. So I would say, as a parent, like the message I would say right now is be patient with each other, be courteous with teachers, be courteous with your fellow parents who are maybe working from home and trying to roll out remote learning right now. I know the district has been working really hard to try and get Chromebooks into the hands of students that need them. The priority has gone to families that don't have another device at home. And so I think that has actually ended already. Yesterday was the last day to get a device, but I would say that if you're finding yourself struggling right now with the technology that you thought you had set up, or if your kids need a little bit of extra help, the schools are definitely ready to continue helping, even if the device assignment has concluded. So I would say reach out to your school committee reps. Certainly you can call me too, but I know your school committee representatives are ready to try and help families walk through the remote learning. This is new to everyone. I think for the last few weeks, the message has really been take care of your families, do what you can at home. There's been enrichment posted on the district website. There's a lot of sort of virtual classroom meetups that are just starting to happen, but everybody's kind of feeling that out right now. In terms of when we go back, I think the state is still trying to figure that out. Individual districts are still trying to figure that out. Right now, May 4th is the earliest that they're going to be contemplating that. But as a parent, I'm trying to wrap my mind around the fact that it could be later than that, or it could be we're not going back at all this year. And, the only good news really is that we're all in the same boat. Every district, every kid, every family is in the same boat. So it's not like, one classroom is facing a different challenge. Of course, I know that having children with special needs or with language access or a lack of technology at home obviously presents a whole host of higher level challenges. And it's not so simple to say, we'll talk about summer school or we'll talk about catch everybody up when we go back. You have to do that equitably in a district as diverse as Malden, and that is extremely difficult. We have a great union, we have a great superintendent, wonderful teachers, administration, really like right across the board. I've been impressed by how people are trying to handle this. So if it comes down to it and we're not going back this year, I am confident in the leadership that our school district has, that there will be a plan, and that, again, we're all kind of in this together. So as a parent, I know that we're in good hands there. Switching gears just to sort of what people should know on the city side, I think that, we're about to embark on a really serious and different time over the next few weeks. It's clear from medical officials and it's clear from city officials that the next 2 weeks we are anticipating a surge in cases of the virus. The medical system is going to be approaching capacity, and if you want to help, the thing you can do most right now is stay home. We don't want to be seeing people out in the parks. I get at least a call every day from someone saying they were down at the pond or they were down at Airmridge Field, and there's folks congregating. You really shouldn't be doing that now. It's to protect your neighbors, but it's also to protect yourself. The more we learn about this virus, the more that we're understanding the transmission is occurring before people are symptomatic. And you really should be covering your face. You should be wearing gloves and just not leaving the house unless you absolutely have to. Now, I understand that it's extremely difficult. kids are cooped up. We've got elderly residents that have no access to groceries. Maybe their family is quarantined, or whoever normally does their grocery shopping. I completely understand that this is not easy for a lot of folks. I'm offering myself as a resource if you need trash bags, if you need help with really anything, picking up medicine, picking up groceries. There's your counselors, but there's also an amazing network of almost 1,000 residents who have formed just in the last 3 weeks. And there's a Facebook page called Malden Neighbors Helping Neighbors. They also have their own website now that's maldenneighbors.org. And if you're in a position to help, you can connect there really quickly. If you need help, you can also get help really quickly there. And it's basically an organic network of neighbors that are, you know, delivering groceries, delivering prescription medicine, doing things. They're following the correct protocol. They are in touch with the city. They're coordinating with the city and a lot of the social agencies that are helping to distribute supplies right now. But really, that's the best place to go if you want to get connected into both the network of helpers or if you yourself need help. So that's maldenneighbors.org. Or you can call your city councilor. All of our phone numbers and emails are on the city website. I have heard that the city hall number is experiencing some higher call volume and some difficulty with people getting through. So I don't want to speak for all my colleagues, but I know that all the counselors I've been in touch with are working really hard every day to take these requests, especially if folks can't get through to City Hall. So please don't hesitate to reach out to your counselors. That's what we're all here for. We're ready and waiting to help. I'm very much looking forward to us convening our first meeting next week. Of course, that's going to be virtual. It's not going to be in person. And, you know, in my day job, I've had the opportunity to get to know how to use Zoom. We're using Zoom right now. There are barriers to learning it, but I feel confident that everyone in our city government, our elected officials will be able to understand it, get up and running. And my hope is that we can have the community offering input as well. I don't know what that part will look like just yet, but I think we're working towards it. The school committee trying it on Monday night was a huge step forward. And that meeting is actually posted on Facebook too. You can watch it after the fact. So if you want to get caught up on the school committee meeting, that's a great thing, a resource that's available. And then I think the council meeting, it'll be the same. You can watch it afterwards or you can watch in real time. I think that's about it. You know, for Ward 3 in particular, I, again, would just reiterate, like, stay safe out when you're getting exercise. You know, we're not under a stay-at-home order yet. So I know that it's very important for mental health to get out, get exercise, get fresh air. If you have a porch, if you have a backyard, do it there. Only do this with people in your house. If you have the ability to get out, you know, a little bit earlier, or just to do that on a side street instead of crowding the bike path, instead of crowding the trails, you know, that's a better way to do it. The other thing that I will say is that I've been in constant contact with Melrose Wakefield Hospital, and they're giving city officials a really good sense of where they are in terms of capacity. They have a really impressive protocol in place right now that's kind of a multi-level emergency response plan that they're activating, and it really goes by tier. So as the situation gets more serious, they are broadening the areas of the hospital that they are able to reutilize for beds that maybe were used for waiting areas or halls, or, you know, yesterday they were explaining to a number of city officials that they've got their cardiac unit that's all for COVID now. They're retrofitting parts of the hospital with electricity that didn't have the plugins necessary for ventilators before. So they are ready to scale up as they get closer to capacity, but they are not anywhere near capacity right now. The way they put it is they're planning for the worst, but expecting the best. So they have all the safety measures in place. They have that backup plan. They do have a relief valve also with Tufts Medical Center in Boston. So if they have really severe cases, they do have the ability to send folks to Boston for higher level care. That's only happened 3 times so far, but it is something that they're prepared to do. And I think the message from them really is, if you feel like you are experiencing symptoms, call your doctor's office first. Please do not show up in their ER. That is just asking for transmission of the virus, and that's kind of across the board. Doesn't matter what doctor or what medical system you normally feed into, you should be calling your primary care doctor doctor first. And if you don't have a primary care doctor or you don't know what to do, you can reach out to the city health department and they can give you guidance on how you can be told basically what to do. There's also a website, the name, I can't remember it exactly off the top of my head, but I believe it's linked from the city website. There's now a digital tool that you can go on and enter in your symptoms, and it will tell you, you know, should you call, should you just rest at home, what should you do? I can get you that link after if you want a link to it, but it is on the city webpage. And again, it's like a self-tracker that you can go in, evaluate yourself and see, you know, how high is my fever? Do I have the respiratory? Am I at risk for the following reasons? And it will sort of recommend what your next step is. But getting back also just to the neighborhood in particular, Melrose Wakefield was really clear that Malden Hospital is not in any way going to be brought back online. No part of the property is going to be used for COVID. They are in touch with Mass DPH and, you know, all levels of state government about that. They've been inventorying their other properties. Malden is just simply not going to be used in that way. That's a question I'm getting a lot from residents. And I did have some initial conversations with them about how we get the community engagement process back on track for the redevelopment of the site. That is something that they're committed to doing as soon as the kind of emergency declaration phase of coronavirus is behind us. Obviously, they're focusing more on that right now, but I'm in touch with my counterparts in Medford, and I'm in touch with the hospital kind of before all this started. And so we're really committed to trying to get a robust community engagement process going for the future of that site. And before all this started, they had reassured both Medford and Malden that they are committed to adding open space there. They're committed to listening to community concerns, and they're not planning to put housing of any kind there. And really that still stands. So even though we're not talking actively about reuse for the site, the things for the neighborhood and for the rest of the city to know is that it is not being considered coronavirus response, either the building or the parking lot. And we are ready to get restarted as soon as this, you know, is behind us and we have some semblance of business as usual or back to normal and the emergency phase is over. We are going to be restarting that engagement process. So stay tuned for that. Anybody who's not connected to my Ward 3 Councilor Facebook page could do so. You can also sign up for my newsletter there, and that's where I feed updates on that project and other things related to coronavirus right now.
Well, thank you so much, Councilor Linehan. So in addition to some of the things you touched on, I will definitely look forward to that link regarding that app. I hear it on the radio, but it'd be good just to get the link up for our viewers at home. So in addition to that, how have the seniors been? Have you been hearing from the seniors in Malden residents who have been concerned about the city's response to their public health, especially if they are in city housing?
Yeah, for sure. So I've heard personally from a lot of seniors. I've also reached out to a lot of seniors that I know, either that live alone or are, you know, older, don't drive, people that just from talking in my last campaign or from getting to know them in my first 3 months on the council that I know are in some vulnerable category or might need extra help. I'm definitely hearing from folks though that they're concerned, and not just in the housing authority buildings, but in nursing facilities and also just regular old apartment buildings. Folks are really worried about those shared spaces, so elevators, lobbies, front doors. There's a lot of fear that I think is understandable in that regard. You know, it's one thing to say take care of yourself, take precautions in your own home, but if you're in a building where when you leave you have to touch doors and mailboxes, and other, you know, common areas that other people use, I completely understand why people are starting to come from a place of fear around not being able to control what the neighbors are doing. And I think, you know, when the city has done their Facebook Live events, they've reiterated a point that I think bears repeating, which is that you should always assume anyone around you has it and that you could have it, and that transmission could be going both ways, and act accordingly. It's really, really hard, and I recognize that. It's hard to get the supplies to cover your face, to have gloves. It's hard to, you know, feel cut off from your family, know that you are putting yourself at risk when you touch the front door of your building. I fully recognize that. But I think, again, going back to that Malden Neighbors site, there is a network of folks who are volunteering to call through all the senior buildings. And that would be both seniors that live in private buildings as well as Malden Housing Authority buildings. I've been really impressed actually with the number of neighbors who said, look, I'm quarantining myself, or I'm at home, I can't work, but I'd love to check in on the seniors in our area. Who can you connect me with? There's a vast network of people who are doing that. I would say to any seniors listening, please reach out to me personally. If you're not web savvy, if you're not comfortable, if for confidentiality reasons you don't want to connect to that group, I can do that for you. I will keep that confidential. There are ways to get folks the help that they need. And honestly, there's hundreds of people that are looking for ways to help right now. There's no reason that anyone who's a senior should feel isolated or like there's nowhere to turn for help. I think some of the things that people have reached out to me for help with is definitely the trash bags. I know you mentioned that. The thing that I'm telling people, again, this is after talking to the mayor's office, they completely understand how tough it is to get to the stores, or that, you know, people don't feel comfortable going, or that the wait is really long. I know there is a stock of Malden trash bags in the stores, but for reasons of not wanting to go out or not being able to get to the stores, if you have that difficulty, both the city council as well as the mayor's staff are doing delivery. If you have a way of leaving cash in a mailbox, there's no contact deliveries that we can do. People have been leaving bags, you know, in mailboxes, on front steps, in a Tupperware bin on your front walk. There's lots of ways that we can safely do this following the social distancing protocol. I will say that I have bought extra myself, and there have been a few times that folks have said, look, I just don't have any money. I need one bag to get through this week. I'm happy to deliver that to you. I've been doing that all along. Again, reach out to your counselors and don't be afraid to ask for help. We're all in this together. I do understand the frustration, even from, you know, able-bodied folks or folks that are able to get out, can afford bags, can get to stores. I think the feeling is like, it's crazy. Why are we still even having bags right now? Can't we just get rid of them? And, you know, unfortunately, the city is facing some tough financial times ahead. Every city is, everybody everywhere is. I think it's a misnomer that the bag program makes a profit, or we don't need that money to fund the trash program, and unfortunately we do. So eliminating it completely isn't an option. I know the mayor's staff had looked into whether setting up delivery was possible at the outset in early March, when we were first facing down, you know, a few weeks of quarantine. And unfortunately, that's not an option either in the current vendor relationship that we have. So this is a conversation that's still ongoing. I know that everybody who works for the city and that's on the council is getting these calls, and we're trying as hard as we can to both be responsive to the short-term needs of folks who are really in a pinch, while also keeping, you know, that brainstorm open of ways that we can distribute them. I know the Malden Neighbors Network, again, that website's maldenneighbors.org. They are starting to help distribute bags, and they have a no contact cash-free system that they're experimenting with. So there are ways of getting the bags. It's not ideal, I recognize that, but unfortunately we can neither eliminate the program or shift to you know, online ordering and mail delivery. And so without those two options, I think we're all doing the best we can right now to get what they need.
Well, thank you so much for that summary, and thank you so much for outlining where the residents can go ahead and get that information. And thank you for allowing and spotting some residents your bags. That's nothing I've never heard about, and maybe it's a precedent for things to come. In terms of updates and advisories, where have you been getting your advisories and news from? I imagine, being a counselor, you're getting it from the city of Malden, but are you in touch with the governor? Are you in touch with your state delegation? How do you keep afloat of the best information while, you know, diverting away the misinformation that's out there, especially targeted at seniors, especially targeted at youth?
Yeah, I will say that particularly our legislative delegation is doing a great job of posting some of the COVID myths and rumors that are out there, so that people have a way of going to check. I know I was looking at Senator Lewis's website just earlier today. He definitely has a really helpful section where you can go and check if you're hearing something and you're not sure if it's legit or not. He has kind of a myth busting section, or I think it's called a COVID rumor page, where you can check on those things. As a counselor, yeah, I think the city is doing absolutely the hardest work that they can to keep us in the loop. You know, we get multiple emails every day. everything that we're allowed to pass on. A lot of us are posting on Facebook, tweeting, putting in our newsletters, telling constituents however the message can get out. The city is doing a really good job of keeping us in the loop. I think I have definitely leaned very hard on our state reps and our state senator. They get a lot more timely information from the administration. And they also, of course, have staff at their disposal that are able to really quickly collect this stuff, post it online, organize it by topic. So whenever I have a question and I either don't want to bother the mayor's office for the 50th time that day, or I suspect that it's something that's coming from the State House anyway, I've been, calling Representative Altrino or Senator Lewis or Representative Donato. They've been a huge help. I know they're dealing with a lot of constituent calls, and so they're trying to be really, proactive. They all have newsletters they're putting out. Some of them are putting out updates once or twice every single day. Those are things that residents can definitely sign up for. They're things that I'm trying to flow through my social media pages, so that if you don't follow them already, you can get it from me as well. But I would definitely encourage you to connect with the legislative delegation. They're doing a lot of work. Senator Lewis, I know, is having another Facebook Live event later this week. Been lots of opportunities like that to plug into what's going on. I know the governor's press conference every day is super helpful. I work in state government, but I will even just tune into it and see what I can hear in real time. There's things that even those of us who kind of work on the inside, on the state side, are still finding out in real time. There's a tremendous amount of work going on, and it is hard to know what's real, what's what's the latest, what's the most up to date. I know the city's working hard to keep their city website up to date. They have a COVID page that people can check. They're pushing things to Facebook as well. That's where I check the most often if I want to see something to share, is the City of Malden official Facebook page. But I think there's a lot of information. If anything, there's such a deluge of information that it's hard to know when to check in, how to not get overwhelmed. What I've been trying to do personally is do a check-in when I first get up in the morning, and then maybe after lunch I'll go and kind of check all those pages, see if there's stuff that I should be sharing, but also stuff that I need to be paying attention to that's coming from the, in the news or coming from the governor's briefing, that I might want to then ask the mayor or ask somebody like the public health director, hearing this, is that something that Malden should worry about? So, more information better. I think when I hear from constituents, they consistently tell me that there's no such thing as too much information. They often have a question and they don't know where to look. And so if it's posted multiple places, at least they can find it there. And I would also say that if people have feedback on how we're doing that, or ideas of better ways that we can communicate, I'm definitely open to that. Getting back again to the Malden Neighbors Network, they are pushing out their information in other languages in addition to English as well. So that's another good resource if you're looking for stuff that's translated. I know there's some local folks that work as interpreters and translators that are trying to get up and running to start putting this stuff into various languages faster. So that's something that I'm hoping to be able to share soon when some of those groups are better able to do so. The Asian Community Development Corporation, ACDC, has been putting out information in Mandarin, Cantonese, and I think a couple other dialects as well. So that's another good group to follow. They do serve Malden, and they've been putting out a lot of in-language notices. So members of the Asian American community that maybe have friends or relatives who need access to information in other languages than English, that's another good resource that I definitely recommend checking out.
Well, again, can you repeat that? MaldenNeighbors.org?
Yep, MaldenNeighbors.org. And they also have a Facebook page, but I do think they're trying to transition from having people mostly interact on Facebook to going to the website, because that's where you can feed right into their database to either offer help, that could be driving, it could be supplies, donating money, all that stuff, or asking for help. You can do both of those things on MaldenNeighbors.org.
And then they're going to roll out different languages.
Yes, they're working on it right now.
Awesome. So in addition to that, just personally stepping out and witnessing the city of Malden in its current state, what's it like in terms of social distancing? Has there been the periodic stepping out for, mental health reasons? You want to go for a hike, local reservations or stuff like that? What has it been like for you as a counselor witnessing what's outside your door?
Yeah, I mean, definitely for mental health, I think it's so critical to get outside, and especially as a parent. You know, we've gone from having kids that are outside having recess, playing in the schoolyard before school, after school, you know, getting their wiggles out, as I always say, with their friends, and now they're stuck home with their family. And, you know, I love my daughter, and I think she's actually having a fun time getting some more hands-on attention and quality time with us. But, you know, we've found very quickly that if we don't get her outside every day, she's not tired at bedtime, or her behavior is really tanking. I think that's totally normal, and I think the kids have mental health needs just like we do. I think it's very easy to get caught up, especially as a counselor, in, you know, like, you work all day, you shift immediately to constituent calls on your lunch break or at night, and then all of a sudden it's 10 o'clock and you haven't done anything for self-care, or exercised, or you've maybe been eating, sitting down all day. You know, we definitely found the first week it was like a struggle to get up at the reasonable hour, or get changed out of yoga pants. I mean, you really have to force yourself to do that stuff. And I think that's normal. And I think we're all learning as we go how to be healthy in a, what I think is really just not the natural way. Humans are relational beings, and we need time with each other. I think I've noticed in a cool way that people are getting creative about that. You know, we've gotten invited to some Zoom dance parties with my daughter's friends, or people will say, hey, I'm going for a walk at this time. Maybe you can come wave to me on my porch. You know, those kind of things are totally appropriate. And I've been actually really heartened to see people doing those things and coming up with really fun, different ways to stay connected and to check in. When we go for walks, you know, it's fascinating. You're walking with mostly no traffic. Although I will say I have gotten a lot of complaints about speeding, the cars that are out there. We had an accident in Ward 3 just earlier today. Obviously I can't speculate on what the cause of that would be, but it does seem like folks are noticing that when the roads are wide open, the cars that are there are going a little bit faster. And I would urge people to not do that, and be mindful of the fact that there's a lot of families and runners and little kids and just folks that don't have yards or anywhere else to go. We need to help each other out and make the streets safe for everyone. But I think it's really cool. You know, you go out in the fells and they're really, really crowded. Like where I live, I'm on Blue North Street right by East Border Road. So there's a number of entrances to the Middlesex Fells. And, you know, the first weekend that we were under quarantine, it was packed. It was like cars parked everywhere, people from far away checking out the fells. And as long as we're being good stewards of that space and taking care of it, you know, that means like keeping your dog on a leash, taking bags of poop out, taking trash out, being respectful, keeping that 6-foot distance, you know, don't brush past somebody when you're out running. As long as we're abiding by all of those safety measures that we should be doing anyway, I think it's fabulous that people are rediscovering the fells or rediscovering the bike path. I took my family down to that gateway path that you can park over by Costco in Everett and then walk down along the river to the casino. The casino obviously is closed, so we saw lots of people out walking, biking, and running. You know, I would encourage people to take a chance on a place that maybe they haven't explored before. It's a great opportunity to get out and see some of the bike paths and trails that we have. Obviously, abide by the social distancing rules. It's still important. Even if you're running, you really should be keeping your distance from people. I understand how hard it is to not be able to get to your gym, and that we've got a lot of like newbie runners out there, or people that are having to shift their exercise routine outside when maybe they're normally at the Y or taking a Zumba class or Pilates or spin. Obviously you should do those things for your mental health, and just make sure that you're taking care of one another, you know, taking care of the trails, respecting other people that are out there. And I think I've had a few residents really interestingly ask me if there's any way that we can expand access to open space. For example, closing down side streets, or maybe marking off some parts of the street, like on the Fellsway next to the park, so that if people are running past Amridge and there is a small narrow sidewalk, maybe we could take some of that parking for Saturdays and let people spread out a little more on the sidewalk by taking like a portion of the street just temporarily. You know, there's obviously trade-offs to that, and we don't want to be encouraging congregating by doing any of those things, but you are starting to see other parts of the country explore those kind of options, like closing down small streets, or creating more spaces that people can kind of spread out when the sidewalks are wide, or there's trees or stumps or roots in the way. So I think it's pretty cool that Malden residents have started to pitch those ideas to me. And I know that all the counselors are open to anything that we can do to make this easier on people while also staying safe. So if you have ideas like that, send them our way.
Well, most certainly what I can definitely do is, when we promote this, we're definitely going to say, please engage with questions to your Malden City Councilors and stuff of that nature. So finally, being a city councilor, what are you looking forward to in the next city council meeting? Is it the same usual agenda, or is it going to be a brand new agenda in light of what's been going on with COVID-19? And also, are there a series of outstanding items and articles that had to really be prioritized as opposed to what it was ordinarily on the agenda?
Sure. So I haven't seen the agenda yet. I don't anticipate that there will be a big backlog of standing items. I think that our primary goal is to get Zoom up and running in a way that is both accessible to the public, but that also works for counselors. We all have very different degrees of technology access at home and tech literacy, and that's okay. This is new to all of us. And when I think about myself on my first Zoom call for work 3 or 4 weeks ago, it was a lot different than now, where I understand how to mute myself or how to get good lighting or how to raise my hand or use the chat. That's going to be new to a lot of members of the council and a lot of members of the public. And so I think the priority has to be on, shifting our work virtual and doing so in a way that allows transparency for the public. If we can get to a point where we can take public comments, that would be great. I don't know what that looks like yet. I don't know, I don't want to overpromise on our first meeting, but I know that that's a shared goal, that we want to be getting back to business as soon as we can. I think there's a number of short-term things that we really see on the horizon related to COVID that we need to tackle quickly. To take just one example, we are expecting as a city to be getting an infusion of money through HUD for things like small business assistance and affordable housing or renter and mortgage assistance. So we are right now expecting to get more information in advance of our meeting. I don't know when it's coming, but we're hoping to get more information on what that number looks like, what we can put it towards, how quickly we can use it, and if there's other buckets of money in the city that we could leverage, like potentially Community Preservation Act funds. I know we were very close to getting our Affordable Housing Trust Fund up and running right before this all happened. My understanding is that that's something that we could get up and running pretty quickly once we resume business. So that's definitely a huge priority of mine. I'd like for us to be able to utilize that. I hear almost every day from people who are nervous that they won't be able to make rent or pay their mortgage, or landlords that have tenants that they're worried about those folks being able to pay their rent after May. Maybe they paid April 1st, but they're out of work or underemployed or don't know, what their financial future is going to be. And so we need to be thinking about the full breadth of homeowners and renters in the city and what that displacement and homelessness risk really is. Related to that, I'm hoping to get an update on what the city is doing regionally to prepare for an uptick in homelessness and shelter needs. I think that's something that we are anticipating, not just because the Malden Warming Center closed, but because unemployment data released by the state is really showing not just that the filings are at an unprecedented record high for unemployment assistance, but that the gap between even what the feds are going to be helping people with to pay their housing and housing related costs, that gap is going to be quite high within just a few months' time. So I think that Malden, as a city where we already know that we have a pretty high rate of cost burdened renters, we are still a majority low and moderate income city, and we are still a majority renter city. And, thankfully for us, we had a really in-depth analysis, not too long ago, in the last year, looking at the housing needs in the city and just what people are paying and where that risk of displacement really is. So we have that data going into this. And I think it's going to be very important for the council to look at the package of data that we have, look at the funding that we're likely to get from the feds, and then try to anticipate where those gaps might be so that we can roll out programs that will help people stay in their homes. That, to me, a huge motivating factor why I even wanted to run for the council was to start to tackle some of our housing issues head on. And I think that this is just illuminating and bringing really to the forefront some of those in a way that none of us could have anticipated. I hope that we get some more general updates that the public can hear on what the city's COVID response is right now, and where our health system is, and what what testing is available, or, things like when school might reopen. All of that stuff, I'm sure that residents are wondering about, counselors are wondering about too. So I hope that we see an agenda soon. Normally we see those Thursday into Friday morning. I think legally they've got to be posted by the Friday before. But we're having some really productive discussions amongst ourselves around what kind of things we'd like to hear about and talk about. But, again, without speaking for my colleagues, I think we're all just really concerned with the vulnerability that we're seeing out there, and trying to be mindful of the fact that the city is going to be facing a very challenging budget cycle. Certainly nothing that I've ever seen. And I think most of us, that would be the same case. We're going to be, ready for some belt tightening, ready for some trade-off sacrifices, and just a really challenging budget climate. And the sooner we can start to get working on that, the better.
Well, thank you so much for answering that question directly, and that was amazing. You even weaved in some parts ahead of my asking you, because I was going to ask, how do you collaborate with other counselors when you're socially distant? I imagine there's maybe your already existing chat threads on whatever you guys do, from SMS ranging to Messenger. But in times of the technological gaps between the city councilors, how do you reach out to a counselor that's often out of reach?
I'm a big believer that a good old-fashioned phone call is often the best way to get a sense of where somebody's at on something. We obviously have a lot of legal restrictions. We can't meet in a quorum. A group of us can't just decide to go get coffee or do a conference call or what have you. Even with the loosened restrictions on open meetings that the governor signed into law in early March, that allows us the ability to convene a meeting virtually for the first time ever. Previously, you had to have a quorum of people physically present, and then others could call in if your city chose to vote on and adopt that. Now we are allowed to all meet virtually, but we still are beholden to those open meeting laws that make it so that, and I think rightfully so, that we can't be, deliberating or having conversations outside the public view. The mayor has been keeping us all very well in the loop, his staff, with daily email updates. They remind us constantly not to reply all and not to start chit-chatting about stuff over email, because that's not within the confines of that law either. But I think when we start to hear things, if I hear, for example, with the trash bags, when I started to get calls about that, I reached out to a couple of my colleagues who've been great mentors to me as I've started to get going on the council, and just said, like, hey, are you facing this? How are you handling it? What do you think I should do? We are a very collegial group. Even when we disagree, I think part of us would have liked to have started meeting sooner, and some of us have been okay with the schedule that we decided on. Even having said that, we're all in this together, and we're still a collegial body that we can disagree on things. But the reason that we're all serving is to serve residents and to serve the community. And so, I think we're all doing the best that we can to be in touch. Like you said, if we can be on like texting each other or calling each other, we are. The mayor has convened small groups of us a few times just to give us really quick updates on what the testing capability is or where the numbers are, and doing those in a way that's legal and that doesn't violate open meeting law. But everybody's working really long days right now, and so I think what often happens is it'll get to be like 10 or 11 o'clock at night, and I'm trying to close down and make sure that I responded to everybody who reached out to me that day, and I'll think of something that I need to get an answer to, and I might email someone in City Hall and then just as a courtesy copy one of the at-large counselors, or if it's something that takes place in someone else's ward, I'll copy them in, and do that for each other, so that if we find out about something via one of our personal networks, but it might affect another ward, just taking the time to loop one another in, but also being mindful of the right and wrong way to do that. I think given how unprecedented these times are, we've all done a really good job of communicating and helping each other out without doing so outside the public eye. As public servants, everything we do is a public record, and we all have to be mindful of that. So that's definitely how I've been doing it. I find that hashing things out on Facebook is not really the right way to go about arguing or to disagree with somebody. If I've seen things on Facebook that I haven't agreed with, or that I wouldn't have phrased that way, you call that person and tell them. I think you still have to be an adult, and you still have to think of people's humanity. We're all, one of the best pieces of advice that I got when I joined the council was that you don't want to read motives into why people are doing anything, right? So don't tell yourself a story about why they did that. just reach out to the person and see, you know, ask where they were coming from. And they might have information that you don't have that, especially as a newer person, I try to approach all those things with an open mind, because I'm not going to agree with people on everything, but to assume that they're doing it for a nefarious reason, or because, you know, whatever bad intent you imagine to yourself is usually not the case. So I've been really impressed with how people have reached out to folks that they maybe don't work with all the time, or have helped each other. You know, when we tried that one Zoom call, people were texting and calling people's house phones and just doing everything they could to help those folks get up and running, so that when we're in front of the public, we all present, you know, an equivalent knowledge of the technology. And I think that's been great to see.
Thank you very much. So unfortunately, I don't have much time left, but if you'd like to provide your contact information, where can Malden residents reach out to you? Where can your ward residents reach out to you? The best way to reach out to you in time, you know, since COVID-19.
Sure, absolutely. So I tell people that if they want sort of the most up-to-date information every day and they're social media savvy, the best place is to check my Facebook page, which is Ward 3 Councilor Amanda Linehan. Pretty easy to find. I cross-post things on my personal profile as well. I generally don't mind if people are following me in both places. If you check the city of website, cityofmalden.org, there is, you know, obviously a council page where you can reach all of us, but I'll just list my email and phone. My email is alinehan@cityofmalden.org. That's ALINEHAN@cityofmalden.org. My city cell phone is 781-873-9224. Plenty of people text me on that. Plenty of people call me on that. I don't mind either. You know, I'll try to get back to people as soon as I can, certainly within a day or two. I would say that if you need something really urgently, probably calling is the best way, just so that, you know, you're not risking that I don't see something on Facebook. But I have plenty of constituents who regularly find me on Facebook Messenger too. That's totally fine. I try to be open on every channel that I have out there. And so I would say whatever you're comfortable with, Facebook, email, phone, text, any of that is fine with me. And I try to get back to people just as quickly as I can.
Thank you so much, Councilor Linehan. Feel free to come by any time here at, I guess I'll call this Studio G.
Thanks, Guillermo. It was a pleasure.